Right. Good morning, everyone.
Hi there.
Hey. All right, so this is a special meeting of the Lake County Board of County Commissioners. It is 8:02 a.m. on December 11th, 2020. And we are here this morning to formally complete our allocation of CARES funding today, followed by a work session with the Sheriff's Office on their budget. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started with our first topic on our agenda, which is the allocation of CARES funding. Commissioner Mudge, do you have your spreadsheet that you could put up potentially?
Sure. Can you see that?
Yeah, now I can.
Okay.
Right.
So, sorry. I was just going to say that the two things that were especially pressing are the allocations for the Unmet Needs Committee and the EDC. Those programs need to be completed. The EDC needs, I know that I think they sent applications out, published the application for businesses to apply, and they have a committee ready to process and go through those over the next week or two. So those are the two that I was mostly focused on, and we can, I think you might have some other information as well, Commissioner Marcella.
Okay, those two are okay for me. I know that we had talked about or been approached by potentially funding the broadband towers, which doesn't sound like those are eligible expenses.
Right.
Chris, I think that I had sent you an email about that, correct? That does not meet the guidelines for allocation because it would be lasting infrastructure. Is that correct?
That is my understanding as well.
Okay.
So I have that slated here as 0 from learning that, and our total looks to be about 515, and that's including all of these numbers. What's in yellow has already been allocated, although the second half of the unmet needs has not. We've allocated the 83,000. So I think if we want to, do we want to allocate another 83 or 100? And then I think, do we have a different number? I don't think I have heard any other requests on a number different than the 100,000 to the EDC for business support.
No, I think in speaking to Marla, that 100,000 seems to be a good number for them. I think 83 for the unmet needs is okay. And then if you scroll down to the bottom, is the 51,000 what we have remaining?
Yeah.
Okay, the 21st Century program at the school district for second day programming and Friday programming needs some additional funding. They were looking for $120,000 worth of funding. I would be amenable to allocating some of that balance to the school district for spring semester programming, since they're going to stay in that hybrid model through the spring semester. I know we don't have the like 120,000 to give to them, but I would be amenable to giving them some additional funding that they could use now to free up funds for spring semester.
Okay. And I just want to make sure, I think, some of the other things we had talked about previously were like this jail transport for Bent, which I don't know that, I mean, it surely isn't as significant as I think I had perceived, it to potentially be. But other smaller things, I mean, we can certainly absorb in the general fund. I just want to be sure that we, don't have any lingering requests or expectations from senior center or DHS that you know of.
I did see something come through from St. George's.
Right.
Is that anything that we could consider? It sounds like they were looking for additional
They didn't ask for an amount, but they said they were running low on their funds for stocking the pantry. I know I did send out an email to Janine at Human Services to ask about what, to make sure that the relationships with the state are continuing, which I imagine they would be. But yeah, we could split, or we could divide that 51,000 between the two of those. PIO is being paid for by Public Health Cares funding, correct?
No, a portion of that was coming from ours. That 14,000 is coming from ours, or should be coming from ours, and then 2021 through 2022 will be covered by state CARES funding directly to public health.
Okay, so that 1,400 is actually allocated, or we should formally and make that clear today, I think. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And then I don't think that this senior and high-risk population enhanced support through senior center efforts has been utilized or specifically formally allocated to them, is it? Okay. I don't know what the number for the staff at the library might be, but it may be something like that.
Okay.
So it looks like 66. And if we want to add, let's see. So how would you propose to allocate the remainder between the school district?
I would say we could do maybe 25,000 to the school district. What about 10,000 to St. George's?
Do we need anything else for rapid response testing, or that's really funneling through public health?
I'm pretty sure that that's been taken care of through public health and Dr. Lisa's, and they have the ability to provide free testing.
That's what I understood.
Yeah. 10,000, maybe 10,000 to St. George's. Do you have a ballpark estimate from search and rescue?
No, I don't, but we should. I mean, I think we can, I can certainly get that. We have a little more time to get that figure from them, to replenish them from the summer. I apologize. I reached out to Brenna and she didn't know figures and I was not able to get in touch with Chris.
Okay, so we can meet again before the end of the year to allocate that, if that's determined something that we want to do.
Okay.
So I feel comfortable with St. George's School District EBC unmet needs.
Did you say 10,000 to St. George? Are those
Yeah,
numbers correct?
I know
Okay.
that they had sent us an email earlier in the week. Let's see here.
They didn't ask for an amount. But I think that would be good, and then we can let's see where that leaves us.
Okay.
31, and then we can always distribute more. I'm just gonna put 5 in there for search and rescue as a estimate. All right.
Okay.
Then I'll make a motion to allocate $100,000 to the EDC for the business support program, $10,000 to St. George for the food pantry, $25,000 to the school district for operational reimbursements. And I think that's it for now.
Okay. I'll second that motion. Is there any further discussion, Commissioner Mudge?
No, thank you.
Okay. None for me. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. I will coordinate with the school district and St. George's to get those out the door to them, and the unmet needs committee. I'll coordinate those.
I didn't include the unmet needs committee, so I'll make another
Sorry.
motion to, do we want to, the 83 is fine?
Yeah.
Or was it, okay, so I make a motion to allocate $83,000 to the unmet needs committee of Lake County Cares Funds.
All right, I will second. Is there any further discussion, Commissioner Mudge?
No, thank you.
All right. None from me. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you very much. So I will take care of coordinating that. That'll work. Okay, so now we will move into our budget work session. We have Tina with us from the Sheriff's Office, I see. I don't think she's connected to any audio though. Tina, you might have to log off and log back on to connect to audio, and we'll take about a 5-minute break and get her connected with audio and wait for Sheriff Reyes to join us as well, and then we'll jump into that work session.
It looks like she's connected now.
Oh, awesome. Hi, Tina.
Kayla, you know what, I didn't include the PIO either.
Oh.
In a motion. Sorry, I was just trying to write down, make sure we got everything. So I will, can I throw a motion out there to cover that as well?
Yeah.
All right. I'll move to allocate $14,000 to the public information officer compensation of CARES funding, from CARES funding.
All right, I'll second that. Any further discussion, Commissioner Mudge?
No.
All right, none for me. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. Okay, so we've formally done all of those. I can go ahead and move forward with putting those in for reimbursement through the DOLA portal. And then I think I'll coordinate with the city on the remainder of their CARES Act funding as well, so that we make sure that we get that allocation from them or for them. Tina, can you hear us? I can't hear her. Okay, let's, Tina, you might have to log off and log back in because I can't hear you. I don't know if your audio is working, but we'll give it just about 5 minutes for Sheriff Reyes to join us. And then Kristol, I think Tina may have copied you on the budget document that she sent today if we want to share your screen and have you display that.
Okay, let me check my email.
Hello.
Hi, Sheriff. We can
Hi,
hear
how
you.
are you?
Good. Is
Good
that
morning,
you?
Sheriff.
Good morning.
Good morning. Okay. Oh, okay. Let's see. Okay. Tina, I think you're the 293-1998 number, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I just want to make sure that I was talking to the right person. Okay.
Can you
Thanks.
see
Good
my
morning.
screen, Kayla?
I can. Yep, I can see your screen.
Thank you.
Cool. So I think if you guys want to start and walk us through some of this stuff on your top sheet, that'd be a great place to start. Tina and Amy.
Are you talking about where Tina sent over for the items for 2021? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, I think so.
Okay, since I'm on the phone, since I'm not looking at a screen per se.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Do you want me to do it, Amy, or?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so the X-ray machine and the detector, the court grant went ahead and they approved that. So I submitted the reimbursement for that for the $46,751, and we're looking at like 10 weeks out before it arrives. So the only thing that they aren't going to pay for is the installing of it on the second floor. And so when I spoke with Levi yesterday, he said it will require that 30 amp breaker and a can plug into a 110 volt. So that'll be our responsibility. So I'll have to get a bid for that.
Okay. But that's
And
probably
then,
okay.
so then he also said for the E911 upgrade that they're going to do eventually, that we need to have 2 more dedicated 110 volt, 20 amp power feeds, whatever all that stuff is. He said that the electrician will know what we need. Then we're also going to need 2 other 20 amp circuits on the other wall where our servers are now for future equipment.
So okay, Tina, is the E911, can you tell us more about that upgrade?
That I have no idea. It has to do with something that they were going to upgrade with CallWorks.
So the E911, it has to deal with the text to 911. So all across the state, everybody's going to have to go to that ability. So it's not just us. It's something that legislation passed that we're going to have to be in conformance with.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't for sure. I know they were going to do an upgrade and they're getting ready to do it.
Is that an upgrade to the software, or just in addition to the software, and more equipment means more power is needed to the dispatch room? Is that right?
No, it's more equipment and upgrade and running more electrical. It's a pretty involved thing. Of course, when legislation's passed, they don't care about how much it costs to small counties. So, yeah, that's just something that's coming down the road.
Okay, and then one of the things I want to talk about at the end of like budget specific is kind of going through all those projects and like the facility planning and communication from y'all. So we can get to that point at the end of your list, I think. But will that be in is the current new consoles in the dispatch room, correct?
They're not new consoles. They're actually old consoles. What we replaced last year was stuff that went out of life that we weren't told about.
I'm sorry, Sheriff, I'm not following.
So it wasn't 911, it wasn't consoles, it was software and the phone system to catch up with the rest of the state so that we would be able to start moving forward. And it was stuff that apparently had been, I don't know, told to last administration. I can't speak for them. I don't know that what we had in dispatch was going out of life, just like our handheld radios that went out of life last year in December. Same thing, that system went out of life. And there's apparently, go ahead.
I was going to say, but we replaced that, right?
We did, but that's what I'm saying. So that was something that was not accounted for because it simply went out of life.
What was not accounted for? The new E911 legislation, or?
Well, no, the new E11 legislation, that's upcoming. That's something that we as a county and the E911 board are going to have to look at. And that's something, I'm not part of the E911 board, and there was supposed to have been a tax increase that was going to look at, so that would help pay for that.
Yeah, and
great.
I know the PUC, the Public Utilities Commission, actually met last week and viewed that proposal, that fee increase. I'm not certain what the outcome of that meeting was. I wasn't able to stay on the meeting for that portion of it, but we can follow up and see just, you know, what the revenue increase may be to the county that could be allocated there. I know, and I'm not, I mean, we certainly have to meet, you know, what legislation is requiring us to. I get that, but I just want to be sure, and maybe that's a follow-up, since we don't know really what that cost looks like or scope of work. And it doesn't, I'm not yet clear whether it's software or hardware or.
It's both. And Kayla, I know that you've been more involved on that end of it. Is that something you can fill Sarah in on, or do you need me to get her more information?
With the E911 stuff, is that what you're talking about?
with the text to talk or text to 911 and the legislation that's around that we've got to be in compliance with the ability to be able to do that?
Oh, yeah, it's just that I don't think there's any way around it.
I'm
But
not,
it doesn't sound like Sarah knows anything about it at all.
I'm
Yeah,
not,
so
I'm not arguing about having to do it. I'm just trying to understand what the scope of the work is that we will need to do.
To be honest with you, Sarah, I don't know how much that's going to cost. It sounds like it's going to be pretty expensive. It sounds like it's going to be a software upgrade and equipment and running more electrical and, you know, labor. I don't know, honestly, how much that's going to cost. I can find out from Levi. I believe we have until 22 to be in compliance. I will follow up on that date
Oh,
because they pushed
Yeah.
it back a little bit.
Yeah, so I think we have to buy a dedicated console for that will be able to transcribe receive the text message 911s.
Correct. And
Because that'll come in differently than it would just through a phone line.
right. And part of the thing was we don't have room for it now. And we were hoping that that would fall in with the new building
Hmm.
because we're out of room. And we don't have the room to add any more hardware in that small room behind dispatch.
So can we talk about that project and plan for that project in 2021 and not necessarily budget for it or take it out of general fund once we figure out exactly what needs to be done? Because I don't know, I mean, I don't know if, I'm sure 10,000 wouldn't be adequate, but I mean, I don't know.
I
if it's
need to look at the
200,000.
legislation a little bit closer to give you an answer. To be honest with you, I haven't had the capacity to really nail it down.
Okay. That
Because
would be
it
my
seems
suggestion.
to be changing because with COVID, that seems to have stalled some of it. I think that we were going to have to be in compliance by July of 2021, but I think that that's been put back because of COVID, thank God, because we're out of room.
Okay.
So I guess I'll get back to you on that.
Sounds good. And then actually the X-ray machine, just to be clear, is that replacing the one upstairs or adding the one upstairs? And are we bringing one downstairs? Are we gonna have two?
No,
That's
replace-
replacing the, oh, go ahead, Tina.
No, you're fine, go ahead.
That's replacing the one upstairs. The one upstairs has just been an absolute nightmare.
Yeah. Okay.
And that grant was just approved through court security.
Yeah. I was just wondering if we needed to add that into the staffing plan conversation and if we were gonna have two of them, because I know that was always been part of the challenge of getting one downstairs or having two separate locations for them. Okay.
So I think we only have one total, right, Amy?
I'm sorry. Yeah, the
Only
phone broke
one?
up.
Oh, no, that's okay. Only one X-ray machine total, right?
Yes.
Okay. And so when we had applied for the funding for the underfunded courthouse, we were hoping that they would provide some funding for us to do some of that work to bring that machine down to the front doors to provide security for the jail and the courts. But since we didn't get that, we'll just need to roll over what we had planned in 2020 to do some of that temporary false wall work, if you will, to bring that down and secure the jail and that corridor going up to the courts.
Because we still plan on doing that, right?
Yeah.
The fall
Yes.
wall? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead, Tina.
Okay, so then on the DataWorks Plus, being a lot of our equipment is old and stuff. So being we had the funds available, we went ahead and purchased a new LiveScan fingerprint machine, and it's already been paid for. So the only thing we'll have to do is put like $2,000 for the maintenance for the first year. So that
Like-
wasn't included anywhere.
A subscription, an annual subscription fee or something like that, Tina?
For the maintenance.
Okay,
So yeah, that'll be $2,000 that we'll need to budget. Then for the tracker products, which we've already paid for that, we need to include a yearly license fee of $4,300 that we didn't budget for.
what's the tracker products?
So that's a new machine for evidence. So it's going to be a scanner, a barcode, and the program where everything after sheriff has the evidence room set up, everything will be tracked by this barcode and stuff. So we'll make sure we're compliant as far as with the evidence recordings.
Gotcha.
Then on those Axon body cameras, means we had enough in the budget, we went ahead and purchased them, and we made the first payment for the $60,000 for $73.25. So then for the next 2 to 5 years, we'll have to budget for the, I guess that's subscription, isn't it, Amy, for the, and upgrades for $43,452.
Tina, I have a quick with that 43,000. Do they take care of the IT piece on the body cameras?
I believe that's going to be recorded, ain't it, Amy?
Oh, I think she's muted.
Is she muted? All
Yeah.
right, I've got the.
Amy, press *6 if you're on the phone. Sheriff, excuse me. Unmute. You're not unmuted yet. Maybe she can't respond.
Kayla, what type of IT support are you referring to?
Well, because I think, so part of that Senate bill is like you have to record the footage on the body cam, and then you have to take the footage from the body cam and review it, and then extract anything that that is like for a minor or anything like that. And then it has to be made public, I think. I'm not 100% sure on how that bill reads. Will that $43,000 for those body cams, is that for them to take care of that IT piece, or is that something we would need to do in-house?
So they provide the redaction software. That's why I asked for an additional person for, I'm going to have a whole separate person to be reviewing body cam footage and making sure that there's no juveniles or blurring out their faces and blurring out victims and their voices and all that kind of stuff. So they include the redaction software, but it's up to us. There is no company that will redact it for you. I wish.
Is that upon
Yeah.
request of public review, or is that just what you have to do to have those
I have to have it available
available?
within 14 days.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so the 43,000, what I understood from Tina, Kayla, is to purchase the full fleet, if you will, of cameras. Is that right?
That's correct, and tasers. So it was cheaper because the tasers that we currently have are so outdated. When we used one, unfortunately, when I went to download, what you do is you plug it into a USB cord, and then you can find out how long that taser was activated. And so, like, if somebody says, they tased me for 2 minutes, you can say no or yes, you were. We can see how long it was, somebody was tased, when it was deployed, date, time, everything. So when I went to download it, it said these cameras, the software was so out of date that it wouldn't read. Yeah, so I can't have that, because then defense looks at like we're trying to hide something. So basically the 43,000 is for tasers and cameras together.
Does that include like a server to download and store that data?
So it's stored to a cloud.
Amy, how many requests do you get on a monthly basis now for?
We don't actually tase that many people. Since I've been in office, we've only tased 2 people.
I'm sorry. I'm skipping back a topic.
No,
or hardware.
no. I mean, it's a good question. Like, we've only tased 2 people since I've been in office. So,
Okay. What about like camera footage? Because you all have some cameras now, correct?
No, we don't.
Oh, okay.
So the cameras that were left from the last administration, they didn't give me the administration rights. And then by the time I convinced them that I was actually the sheriff, that was like May of 2019, that they had gone in and wiped everything that had been on there.
Can we not use those cameras though moving forward? Are they?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, it was such a nightmare.
Okay. Were they old?
Here's the problem. I only found
CTI?
2 of them.
Okay.
So where the rest of them are, I have no idea.
Okay.
And that was my original idea. It was like, well, we can just access these cameras.
Right. So how many total cameras do you need, and how many did the 60,000 buy you?
So I've got 20 cameras.
You need them, or you bought 20 with the 60,000?
I need them. So I have to have anyone that has contacts. So all jail staff, courtroom security, deputies, me,
Okay.
any interaction, they have to have them.
Victims advocates too?
No, just
Okay.
anyone that's in like a law enforcement capacity.
Okay. And how many were you,
Go ahead.
I apologize. How many were you able to purchase with the in your first installment with the 60,000?
20.
So how many do you need total?
19.
19 more?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
So the yearly contract on the cameras is what I'm interpreting this to say, is that it will be 43,000.
Correct.
Just to upkeep the cameras with that recording
No,
software.
that's the whole package was $243,000. We're paying it off in a 5-year installment.
Okay. Okay.
And that we do not have cameras in the vehicles.
Okay. How, so does any of that other software, some of the pieces that Tina mentioned at the beginning of the list, is that needed? That's needed to become completely compliant with the cameras and that piece of legislation? Yes,
Correct.
or is that's okay. Okay, all right. Next on the list is the Ford lease.
Okay, so we've got the 9 trucks and the 1 transport, which I think we've gotten 4 so far of the trucks. The rest will be here outfitted and everything by the end of December. So what I did was I took that $90,000 that we have for the insurance and paid up front for the lease. So for the next 4 years, we'll have to pay out $103,794.17. So that's just for the 9 trucks. The reason they didn't put the transport van in there is because it hadn't been finished yet, and they weren't for sure exactly what it was going to cost with the equipment we had on it. But they're telling me that's probably going to be a cost of around $75,000. So we can do that as a separate lease, or the way it's looking with the budget for this year, we'll have extra money that we can pay for part of it. So, I mean, that's up to you guys what we want to do.
Sorry, I was muted. Yeah, I think, we can use the savings and probably push that over, but okay.
That's just to transport inmates to and from the jail facility, to court and then back to wherever they're being currently housed, right?
Right. So hopefully, I say when you get the new jail, this vehicle will be fitted for like 14 passengers, so that, if we've got to move around, we've got the room for them.
Okay, question. I'm sorry, Tina, I know you just said it, and I just want to be sure that I heard it right, and I was taking notes, so I'm not sure I heard everything you said about the transport vehicle, but the transport vehicle has not yet been purchased?
Well, we've signed on it, but it's not part of this lease.
The payment, right.
Yeah.
So I have no, I get it. Question, do we need the 14-person passenger transport vehicle right now? Can we not purchase it and wait until we have the Justice Center to equip the Justice Center and are actually carrying more folks or transporting?
No, Sarah, there was, sorry, Tina, I didn't mean to cut you off, but there was an accident with one of the transport vehicles, I believe. And they've taken an old transport van, like a I don't know, how old is it? Like 1998? Is that something like that?
That's correct.
Is that right? Oh, that was a good guess.
That's right, you're good.
They took that out of the yard and put money into it to make it feasible to transport. But that is such a huge liability to put people on the road in an unreliable vehicle with inmates. I don't think that is worthwhile for us to skip over at this point.
I was just wondering if we're transporting one person at a time.
No,
it doesn't look like that, Sarah. You're thinking 14 people, but we have to separate them.
Yeah, especially now.
It would hold, if they were all compliant and not COVID and not medium or max security, what have you, we could set them all together, but we have to separate them, and so they're not sitting each next to each other. So what happens is we end up bringing 4 or 5 people back at a time.
Okay, gotcha. All right.
Okay, so then Sheriff has decided to bring back that K9. And so in 2019, we were awarded a grant for $28,000 in some sense. So I'm in the process now of getting that grant to reimburse us for the $16,500. So that'll be no cost to the county for that.
Okay. And Amy, can you talk more? I know I asked you about that. Can you talk more about that and what your thoughts are on the place in your office and and how that will be used in the community?
So I know you had a question particular to marijuana. So drug dogs, canine dogs aren't trained anymore to detect marijuana. So that's not even an issue. We have had in our community 6 overdoses where people have died this past year. We have also had an increase in violence. The drugs in our community is out of control. Not only that, the amount of violence, and everyone has a weapon or a knife. Me and Kayla have talked at length about the crime in our community. And to the extent I have jokingly told her, if the governor shuts us down again, I'm going to find him and kick him. Because since the state's been shut down, the one-on-one person violence has gone out of control.
Yeah.
And people naturally look to law enforcement like, you're not doing enough. I think the canine is instrumental in helping us get a handle on the amount of drugs that are getting trafficked through our community.
So yeah,
Go ahead.
I wanted to give you the opportunity to talk through that so that we could, answer questions or just have that communication with the community if you have not already. But you did mention something to me about reducing violence, which I think I may have interpreted differently. Having heard what you said right now, I think maybe you meant violence, like domestic violence or violence in the community. But I wonder if the dog will assist and help us, like, not have to, or use less force, or how is that? How is that?
It's amazing. People will fight with an officer one-on-one, but if you tell them I'm releasing the dog, boy, it quits right there.
Mm-hmm.
People don't want to get bit. It will also, we've had a fair amount of people run from us, and just in the interest of, I don't want my people hurt. And I don't want the public hurt. But there are some people that we should have gone after, because the victim is the one that suffers when we don't catch them. So yeah. I think it's twofold. What I am planning on doing is doing an article in the paper to introduce the dog, because the dog's not yet ready. So, and the reasons why, so it's not just out there.
Okay. So this will protect both officers and probably, or is intended to, the dog is intended to kind of be used as a de-escalation strategy.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. No, people, it's amazing. I've worked with dogs in the past when I've been in other departments, and it is amazing the amount of compliance that people will give you versus when there's not a dog present.
Right. No, I that wouldn't surprise me. I just also, Amy, with all the Black Lives Matter movement and, undocumented folks, I just wanted to talk through that a little bit here too of, and as I wrote to you, I think it'll be important, and I'm sure you'll have the conversations through the community committee and whatnot, but I think it'll be important to send that message and be sure that we aren't causing undue fear of, intimidation with the dog or any of that kind of perceived threat that might be.
Right. No, and that's why I'm going to work on PR before we introduce the dog into the community. And on the flip side, we've got some people in the community that are trafficking people. And we have some nationals looking at me to help them get this fixed.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I get
we've
that there are
got-
issues.
yeah, we've got some big problems here.
Okay.
So it's a careful balance. It's definitely a careful balance. And in my position, I'm not going to make everybody happy. And I'm trying to do the best I can to make us as safe as we can. But this year, the amount of violence, and I honestly believe it's attributed to people are out of work, they are stressed, and they are doing things they normally wouldn't do. But it's bad this year. And it's not just our area, it's all over the state.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate
You're
the
welcome.
conversation on that. All right. And the next on the list is CTI monthly lease.
Yeah, so that's $4,800 a month. That's for all the maintenance and part of the lease agreement that we purchased the cameras and then all the upgrades. Levi's got to come out. That's all included in that fee.
Okay, and those cameras, this particular charge is for the cameras on the courthouse facility, or does that include the impound lot as well?
No, this is just for the courthouse.
Okay. And is that their fee just for the cameras, or is that your fee to them also for IT services, general IT services?
Yeah. So it's broke down. I think CTI fees are like $1,700, and then the balance is for all the equipment and maintenance.
And labor, I believe.
Okay. 2 payments. Okay.
Okay, so then going down to the revenue, so we're still waiting on the distribution of the funds for sheriff's seizure that they were part of the prior administration with Glenwood County. So I know so far there's like $38,000 in cash that were awarded, and then they've got vehicles and stuff that they've got to sell off. So we'll get that. So we're waiting on that. I did do the reimbursement for the cameras and the x-ray machine, so that should be coming here pretty soon.
Hey, Tina, is there any restrictions on what the seizure fund can be spent on? Does it have to be spent on anything specific, or can it just go into your general revenue?
No, it's got to be spent on certain things, which I haven't looked into that yet, but you know, whatever it is, it's like I'll make sure that we use it for, you know, if there's something that we need.
Is that fund, do we have that locally? Is that one with the inmate fund that's separate? This is
No, you're good. So there's actually 2 seizure funds. So there's the one for the state itself, and that should be the one that has money in it. And that's just all the money that we're able to collect from the court proceedings. And then this federal one, it's something totally different. So we'll get a percentage from the the whole package. And then it documents, you know, what all we can spend it on.
okay, and those are different than the inmate accounts that we have locally?
Yeah, the inmate account is just for the people that come through the jail for like your turnkey and your bond fee.
Okay.
And then when you get the new jail, then like I say, you'll have your commissary
Mm-hmm.
that you know, the cost stuff. But yeah, that's totally different from this seizure fund.
Okay, and we have 1 or 2 inmate accounts.
So you actually, everything now just goes through turnkey. So we'll only just have the one account for the turnkey. And then when we start the commissary again, then that goes into the general fund, but under the commissary account.
Okay.
Oops.
All right. Kristol,
Nope.
can you scroll down a little bit for us, please? Thank you.
How far down do you need me to go? To the
Keep
salaries?
go- yeah, keep going down. There we go. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Well,
what
and
I did,
I was gonna say, for the sheriff's purposes, Amy, we're looking at some compiled numbers on salaries in sheriff, dispatch, and jail, total wages, benefits. But I wonder if before we talk about numbers, if we can talk about what your staffing plan, what you think your staffing plan looks like into 2021. And, you know, being that you don't, are you going to appoint an undersheriff, or what, you know, what is your, what do you think the plan is?
I have to, by statute, appoint an undersheriff. I'm going to be starting to advertise for one in the next week or 2. I just wanted to take time to make sure that I find the right fit, considering everything that's gone on.
Right.
And so, yeah, I have to have an undersheriff.
Okay. And then Amy, are you able to, do you have your computer, Amy? Are you able to look? Because I was going to, you do? All right, let me email you this draft salary table that we were that was proposed and shared with us through the work done with our comp survey.
Okay, perfect.
And I'll email it to you and Tina. Okay, I'm sending that now. And I can share my screen with that as well. So while it's sending over the internet, I don't think I'm going to show you anything that would be surprising to you. As we understand it, this is like the typical kind of salary banding or step table that law enforcement typically operates under. But you can certainly give us feedback and let us know what you think regarding.
What did they consider in the steps, I guess?
So the steps go about 3% each year, and there's an entry level, which I just preliminarily inputted the numbers that I had from the salary spreadsheet and finance department, and some of the numbers of the entry positions based on all the positions of your current staff. So I don't know if you, let me know when you get that email.
I've got it. I'm looking at it.
Okay. Kristol, I'm gonna share my screen if that's okay.
Yeah, of course.
I wonder if I can
Sure.
get into your Zoom that you're in so I can look at the same thing. Let me see. So maybe I'm looking at the same thing you are. Because I couldn't find the email where you had the Zoom link.
Oh, you want me to send that to you also?
Let me see.
I think I sent
Yeah,
it last night, but I'll shoot it over again.
because all I had was the phone number one. That's all I had. I didn't have the Zoom.
Okay, I'm gonna link. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't get that one because all I've got is the one with the phone number.
Okay, I'm gonna direct link in the email body the Zoom link to you.
Okay.
Sorry about that. It was in the attachment, but it's not. Okay. Oops. Okay, that's coming your way also.
Okay. I haven't gotten it yet.
Okay, I know it takes a minute.
Okay. Okay, I'm here.
Does everyone see my spreadsheet?
Yep.
Or the tape? Okay. So I also, from the salary spreadsheet, these are the current numbers entered into there. This second column is, I think, 2020 actuals, and this is what 2020, what the budget was, I believe. So I worked from these, if these are accurate, and that's what I, maybe you guys can take after the kind of conversation about the approach and whether or not, just getting your feedback on the table, you can tweak and work with, what numbers should be in there. But you have an entry for jailer or for court security at this amount. And so we have the entries and these higher level positions Like here, at step 1 is kind of the entry, quote unquote. But I think that's really for, these folks being promoted into these roles for you. So that's why they start a bit higher up.
With the courtroom security, they're a little bit different because they're grant funded partly, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I noted that here, but do you mean to say that we should treat like these steps annually differently because they're grant funded? I did put this position is highly dependent currently dependent, I should word that, on grant funding, and should those circumstances change, the budget would need to be discussed between BOCC and sheriff.
I think,
Yeah.
Tina, you would be able to answer that better than I would.
Yeah, so I know for this grant year, they didn't allow them an increase in pay.
Okay.
I would just leave it with the base, what they're doing, and, if we're able to go up on it, that's fine, but that isn't going to be any cost to the county at all because it's all grant funds.
Sure.
So the only thing we'd have to worry about is just their benefits, but like I say, they didn't award them no increase this year.
Okay. But you actually,
It might be worthwhile to take court security out of that as a whole then.
Yeah.
that might be, yep. All right, because we got Sydney at 46 and then the entry at 42. And Sydney
Yeah.
has been there a few years now. So she's
Right.
falling right in line with this. Okay, so potentially take this out altogether. Okay, I'll highlight that. And I'll make a note.
Tina, does the county have the discretion to give them 3% anyways, or do they not?
Nope, they can't.
Okay.
We have to keep them basically what
Is that could that be looked at as any kind of match to the grant, Tina?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Can we
Because it
find
does-
out though? Because that may make them, once they find out, not want to be in that position. Do you know what I'm
and
saying?
Tell them that.
Huh?
Sydney knew about that because last year she was given the 3% and she came to me and she's like, Tina, I got a 3%. And I said, no, you can't. And I said, that's the thing. You're funded by the grant completely, so you're not able to get that 3%.
Oh, okay.
Well, let's look into that a little bit more
Okay.
and see what we can do. But I can leave it either that grayed out as indicating that this is theoretical or highly dependent on the grant. And I would assume that both of those, Amber and Sydney, understand as most people who are hired under the grant, a grant, as long as the grant funding is available, they are getting paid, and it's highly dependent on the status of that arrangement.
Right.
Okay, so let's see. Okay, so the next line on the jailer, corporal, and court security lead, and also, these titles again were, I added lieutenant because you have lieutenant in staffing, sheriff, but we can, well, let me ask the just general question. How do you feel about this kind of framework?
No, I think it makes sense. Yeah, I think it makes sense.
Okay. And we can change titles. For me, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, that's
What
okay.
I was going to say, what I've done is because of just the way things were working out with the jail, I needed to have somebody oversee the jail at a higher rank just because of some of the issues that we're having.
Okay.
And so I have 2 sergeants. I have a sergeant over patrol, and a sergeant over the jail. So effectively kind of wiping out the lieutenant, not to mean that as we grow that won't need to bring that position back. It's just this year, because we're not, in essence, running a functioning jail the way we have to do things, you wouldn't think that it would need so much oversight, but it does.
Okay, so are you just saying right now?
Take out the lieutenant and add another sergeant. And that sergeant is Sergeant unfortunately, he's over the jail, and he has some patrol supervisory as well.
Okay, so this table is just kind of a base or theoretical for all positions that you could potentially have. So if you don't have a lieutenant right now, I don't know that we need to take it out.
Okay.
I think it's just a framework for the office to operate under. And then we don't, the sergeant, the one line here as sergeant covers, I think, all of your sergeants,
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. Got you.
Okay. We can take it out if you want, but it doesn't have to be taken out just because you don't have somebody in that position right now, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
No, I guess that makes sense.
Okay. Do you think that these entry pieces, is this appropriate? This court security lead or jailer corporal, is this line accurate or not, or needed? If you have deputies overseeing, would you hire for this role specifically?
I still have a lead, which is Chavez.
Okay.
What's he at?
49,275. And so he's kind of in step 2.
Yeah, and he's been here for years.
Yeah, and I think last year in the budget cycle, we talked about him being that corporal in the jail, and that's why his salary was that high, right? So he would fit into that too. That would just be a natural place for him to fall, right?
Right.
Okay, so that looks pretty accurate here with these numbers. And these steps are 3%, using this 3% increase. And these steps would be, the idea of this is wherever you enter in here, and you would enter into a new role and responsibility at an entry or around that, right? And then you would step up. Your anticipation would be the longer, each year, and the longer you have tenure with the organization, then what your salary increase is going to look like if you're with us for 2 years or 3 years, and then a max. And then we can talk through more next year as well, but we can, these numbers might also increase with CPI and COLA, but that's dependent on annually, I think, of what that decision is by the board every year. And then we have to overall, not just for SO, but across the board, the Board of Commissioners needs to talk through how we might consider maximum salary ranges and what we do about that.
What would you do if somebody came in with a lot of experience?
Well, I think, I don't know that I have a great answer to that question, but if you had someone, I don't know, I think that's up to you in saying, listen, you have all this experience and maybe you're worth, you've been in law enforcement so long, so come in at step 1 or 2. And then that might be a case-by-case basis with, their performance and retention in the organization. Because there's always going to be a max. And again, these numbers will shift somewhat as we develop this. And I hope we have better, many more conversations overall, the whole county organization, on compensation expectations, and figuring out equity across the organization. So that's not a concrete answer for you, but I think that's.
Yep, I get it. Clear as mud. That's how I do things too.
Well, I think that would be something too that I think this would only be as good as the policy that you create to be utilized in tandem with it. So I think that the sheriff it would be up to her at her discretion to determine what those steps consist of in terms of like qualifications and training and
That makes sense to
experience
me.
in law enforcement. Yeah, so I think what you would do, Amy, is you would say, okay, for a deputy at this entry level step, this might be somebody that we recruit directly from the academy. That's pretty green, has to go through the FTO program, hasn't been on the road by themselves. That might be like where you start in that entry step. And then in step 1, it would be, completed the FTO program, 1 year's worth of experience, but basically like that review of their performance, and then they move into that step 1. But then let's say you have somebody that that has 5 years of law enforcement experience, comes from a metropolitan district or whatever, and they are pretty good at what they do, but not quite at that level where they can supervise others. You might be able to put them in at like step 2 or 3 kind of thing. But I think that would be up to you to determine and develop based on those metrics, because I don't think that we really know what that would look like for you, or what kinds of qualifications or trainings or specialties deputies have that might be attributed to those pay steps.
Okay, got you.
All right. So do you want to take a harder look at the numbers in here and be sure that those are starting and stepping? I think it seems pretty in alignment with the numbers that we've got in place already.
Yeah, I think so.
And we can
you email me that? Oh, you just did. Never mind.
I did. Yep, I sent that. And I copied Tina on there too. Let me know if you.
I got it.
Okay.
Hey, Kristol, I feel like we're in a pretty good place with this. Sheriff, Tina, Sarah, do you guys feel like we're in a pretty good place with this? And it's something that we can work on together to kind of develop a policy and procedure and appropriate dollar amounts in?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
Can we also do something with dispatch as well? Because I always feel like that's also a hard area.
Mhm.
Yeah, something similar, you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a step so that it's clear what the benefits
Yeah.
are with staying with the organization. It's a dedicated, okay. Yeah, I think we could work on something like that, or
Yeah, I think if we do kind of what we did here with this bracket from the salary spreadsheet and kind of translate that into dispatch and add that in there, Amy, could you email us maybe what you currently have there? Like, I know that Sarah Keenan, I think, kind of has a lead role, and then if there's any kind of chain of command below her for dispatch, that might be helpful to start developing that STEP program for them.
And that's one of the things I wanted to look at this year is having a second in command, because honestly, it's a lot for one person. So, yeah.
Why am I not seeing names here? Oh, there we go. Are you guys seeing my other spreadsheet or are you still on the table?
We're still on the
Okay, so right now, so here's the dispatcher.
Oh God, we gotta update that.
This isn't correct?
You're on the
No.
2020 tab.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
Thanks, Kristol. Okay, sorry. Okay, so this seems like there's clear delineation, which I think is good from entry or lower level dispatch, and then what you have, Sarah Keenan sitting as supervisor. So I think that would be pretty easy for you to enter those and have like a 3% step. That way, and I mean, from a management perspective, in my eyes too, again, we're looking at kind of a similar implementation across departments. It reduces, for me at least, any kind of like annual argument of salary. There's like a set expectation. You're going to get the increase, if you get the good performance review and whatnot, and the organization is dedicated to, seeing that happen. So it just provides stability on both sides, in my opinion. But
No,
I think
and it makes
okay.
It makes good sense to me, and it takes kind of the guesswork out, and like you said,
Right.
instability for the employees.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Well, great. Got that. You guys take a harder look at that. We'll kind of budget with the numbers we have. And presumably if we don't hear from you, we'll budget with those numbers that are in the table already. And then like Kayla said, we can continue to discuss how you guys want to develop that.
Okay.
And
are you
you
going to look at doing that with the rest of the departments that I have as well?
What do you mean by that? Because the jailer is included in the table and the deputies were included.
The admin and the advocates, but I think the advocates, are those grant funded, Tina? I don't remember.
Yeah, I think they've got a split with some county funding and some grant funding, right, Tina?
It's
Right.
a 95-5 split between the grant and the county.
Amy, I don't think, like, I guess short answer right now is no. And we aren't, that's something that we want to work through organization wide as the board for our departments in figuring out and creating better operational structure. But that is not to say, I don't want that to be misinterpreted in that we won't be considering COLA increases across the board, right? So that's not to say that they'll be frozen in their current salaries. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I just want to be able to have, be ready for those conversations.
Okay.
Could we potentially group in her admin with the dispatch stuff though? If we wanted to do that collectively with the sheriff's department first? I'm just wondering if it would be, if we could just develop that with the sheriff's office.
Yeah,
If
Amy, if you,
I don't know, Amy, I don't know if those admin positions, how those are operating right now, but if that's something that you'd want to look at, wouldn't be opposed to doing that collectively for your entire department.
Okay. What do you need to know from me?
Amy, why don't we work on that? Like, again, those admin are going to be subject to the COLA, but I think the law enforcement pieces are a bit different.
Okay.
So yeah, again, I'm not, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that's up to you, Amy, too. And if you want me to throw together, just put dispatch on that table, I can shoot it to you. And then we can talk a little bit about if you want those admin pieces in there as well. Would you prefer those in there?
Well, I guess our COLA, is that going to go across the board this year?
Yeah,
I
some sort of discretionary increase, whether it's a COLA or compensation that is equivalent to a COLA will be applied.
Okay. Well, just as long as I guess we'll just have a conversation later, just so that I know before stuff comes out.
Yes, that sounds good. I'll send you an updated draft with that for you to look at.
Okay.
Cool. Well, I think, do you have anything else that you want to chat through, Sheriff and Tina?
I just did that analysis for where we are as far as budget up through what I've got posted through, I think, December. So we're still sitting pretty good as far as money. So I just figure, if we can go ahead and pay for that transport van, because I think we're pretty much set for everything else. I don't think next year we'll probably need a bunch of stuff, right, Sheriff?
God, I hope not, unless something else stupid gets passed. I hope not.
Well, I think, I'd be totally, I think that's reasonable to have to replace that and spend that. And I think I'll just say to you guys what I've said to other departments, like, don't, those dollars that you don't spend aren't lost per se. They go back into the general fund so that we can fund everybody. So,
right.
Continue to be conservative, and those dollars will help us continue on in the Justice Center process and planning. And, as you, again, across departments in our similar communications, when there are bigger projects or change in operations that you guys would like to plan for, the conversation with the board would be great so that we can kind of get on the same page and there aren't any surprises. I do have a question about, so one, I guess I would just ask that, right, with like continuing with the cameras at the landfill and any other projects, I'm wondering what the status of the tower is too, and if there's anything additional there.
So the tower is delayed. For a couple of reasons. So the tower was going to be for 70 feet. And then discussions were they wanted it to be able to hold some cell tower infrastructure. I don't know, and that's not what the tower was designed for.
Right.
So
Well, I think, who do you mean by they? Because I thought like it was perhaps like CenturyLink or folks asked if they could also co-locate, and then we could be monetizing. And I think then
but
Josh.
the tower wasn't designed for that.
Right. So ultimately, I thought that we landed at, we weren't even gonna get into the business of that. Is that correct? Or are we just in a holding pattern there?
I think we're in a holding pattern.
I think so
'Cause I
too,
think-
because I think the city wanted to participate in potentially putting additional towers or receivers on there. Is that correct, Sheriff?
Yep.
Well, and you'd have to go back through the conditional use permitting process, or at least amend it with the height of it.
That's
And that was
correct.
part of the problem. So is Josh managing that entire project for you, Sheriff?
He is now.
Okay. And is that, because last time I spoke with him, which was a while ago, so I might just not be completely up to date, but my sense was that the consensus seemed to be moving towards it wasn't worth going through the process all over again and the hassle. And then I don't know at that time if he was sure that that was acceptable through the state for our purpose of the tower to do co-location, but maybe it was just the height thing.
Yeah, no, I think the consensus now is that we want to look at increasing the height and basically starting over.
So when do we have a timeline when we have to spend those dollars? Because weren't we like in a crunch at the beginning of this year in the first quarter?
Yeah. So they're talking to the funding agency to get that worked through. I've just kind of stepped back from the whole thing.
Let me try to ask clarifying question. From what I understand, unless Kayla might have more information on the city's desire to use the tower, it is no skin off our nose, so to speak, if we don't heighten the tower to allow for monetizing on co-location of other equipment. Is that an accurate statement? It wouldn't affect our original intended purpose of erecting the tower.
Correct. Other than we would have just had to move forward with the $80,000 originally to put the tower up, like as our match to the grant to get that up. But now we're in winter, so we would be looking at spring.
Sure. So we still have the 80,000 as the match. It improves, the tower gets erected for improved emergency services communications, and we don't go through an additional CUP in increasing the height of the tower. I mean, that's where my last conversation with Josh was like, I don't know if he can go through that whole process again, or how worth it actually would be.
I would rather just move forward with the tower the way it is, and
Yeah.
we need to have our radios working.
Okay. So maybe, we should get that communications work group. Maybe I can check in with Kaylee and we can kind of be sure to convene and get an update, a status of the project, and kind of make some decisions sooner than later so we can plug away.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why I talked to Kayla about this a little bit. I just wanted to give you guys some more information about the individual that Kent is wanting to turn over the funeral home to, and approach the board at possibly putting in a resolution which prevents the coroner from running a funeral home. My worry, and I know that legislation is trying to pass something this year in 2021 to that effect, because I fear that we are going to have the same issues that we had with Kent, with this individual. And I'm just worried as a community member that we're going to have more problems. And I can send, this individual that he's bringing in has already had a couple funeral homes closed down and his license suspended in California. And I can send you documents to that effect.
Amy, do you want to connect with perhaps Chris on that?
Yeah, and I didn't know if you wanted to do that right after this, because I know we had talked about having a discussion today.
Well, I mean, I'm not sure what Amy will talk to Chris about, other than like specific language, but we haven't had a discussion on what we would want or agree on. And I don't know that I would feel comfortable going down that road, but let me make sure I'm understanding you correctly. I mean, clearly Shannon Kent is unable to operate a funeral home business in the state of Colorado any longer. But he owns that building, and as coroner, he can store bodies in that facility, which we would intend to enter into an agreement with the building owner and the funeral home director, the new funeral home operator, to be sure that, you know, that relationship is copacetic and everybody's doing, everybody's happy and can meet their statutory duties. I mean, not having even spoken to the new owner, and you're afraid of him being interested in running for coroner?
No. The person that he's trying to sell the business to has similar issues elsewhere in the state and out of California.
If he had similar issues in the state, why does he have brand new licenses permitted to him from DORA?
Good question. And I'll email that over to you.
Okay. I don't know that I want to speculate on that right now, but it does bring up another good question of, you know, Amy, do you have a plan for improving the communications and the relationships between your office and the coroner's office?
Well, I'm hoping to. Like, my intent, this whole thing started over me requesting him to bring a body bag. That's how all this started, which I didn't think was an egregious thing to ask for. So I just wanted the board and the board's counsel to be aware of what was going to be coming in, and I'll send you the documentation. Here, I'll email it.
So I think that the intent of the request then is to ask us to maybe pass an ordinance rather instead of a resolution that would prohibit a funeral home owner from operating a funeral home and holding the elected position as a coroner. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. I don't know the legalities around anything like that.
There is going to be legislation put before the House in 2021 for just that. I don't know if it will get passed or not, but that's what's going before the house.
Isn't
So-
that in statute though, that you cannot
In statute,
operate home and be the coroner?
in
Do what?
statute, there is a conflict of interest that's highlighted. You have to, you have to take certain steps and communicate with families, all of their options, should there be a conflict, all their options for sending, different locations for sending folks, or different funeral homes to use.
Right.
He can't say, this is the only choice and this is your only choice, which I don't understand to be the case, I understand it to be the case that he's, there are many options and that's always laid out. So there are ways.
Well, I know to be true.
What's that? You broke up a little bit.
Sorry. I know that's not true because when my mother passed away, we weren't given that option.
Okay, well, I mean, that's, neither here nor there at that point. And honestly, I can appreciate your concern, Amy. And right now I would have zero interest in passing something like that. And I think that that's, as our concerns with other folks running for office or any kind of worry, I mean, that's the will of the people. And that's, I don't know. At this point, I would have no interest in pursuing something like that, but I'm happy to have the conversations with you and understand the information that you have.
Does the entire board feel that way? Because I just feel like this is going to be an issue for the county on down the road.
Well, I'd hate to, I mean, I'm
I
sorry.
just sent you an email with those documents, just so that you've got them and you can look them over and do with them what you want to. I just feel that if more information, knowledge is power, and I don't want to see the county in any trouble. That's my intent.
So I just have a question though. If he's packed up and left like he said he has,
Who?
still Shannon Kent.
He's not packed up and left. I haven't heard him say that. I've heard him say the opposite.
So how long is he, okay, so if he's out visiting, then is there a certain time frame? I mean, being an elected official, we all have to live in the county.
He resides in the county.
How do we know that?
How do we not know that?
Well, it says right there in the thing on his window that they were leaving to spend time with their family. And then if he's in the process of selling the businesses, that would lead me to believe that he's not going to be here.
Well, his business and his funeral home operations and his role and as coroner are completely separate.
Right, but if he doesn't have his place of business here, he sells it. He has no actual ties to Lake County as a coroner because
So he's sold his business. He has not sold his properties. The property
I don't know.
here.
I think that agreement that Sheriff sent you will tell it all.
So what you
Well,
sent me-
I'll let-
Amy, is updated licensing information on, and I don't even have a name of
this
the
is going to be
applicant.
on this is on Michael Wallace, he's
Okay.
selling the business to. So
Okay, well, I mean, similar to Shannon's situation with funeral home operations, there was no allegations were made and there was no You know, there's no admission of guilt. There's an agreement. So I don't, you know, what you send me doesn't, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to interpret that as, but appreciate you bringing that up. And if you have more, if you want to bring this to the board another time as well, I would recommend doing that with the new board. But yeah, right now I don't have, you know, I don't know enough or have any interest to try to navigate that or put anything in place.
Well-
Sheriff, did you send all that information to all of us in legal?
I did.
Okay. So I think we can pass it on to legal, and then we can, I think, Chris, if you'll look at that for us and then give us kind of an interpretation, and then we can determine what our next steps are from there, I think.
Sure. I just hate to keep throwing things at legal and accruing costs. I think we should do our own diligence and have our own conversations, because I'm not sure what we're asking legal to do.
Well, I think it's a pretty intricate subject, really. And there's a lot of statute that outlines what you can and can't do, and how things can and can't operate, how relationships can and can't work. And I just don't want to put the county in a position where we are incurring liability or exhibiting higher risk by not doing any due diligence to look through information, and then having legal, I mean, Chris has gone to law school to do this kind of stuff. So I guess that's why I would defer to legal. Chris, I don't know if you have anything to add.
Yeah, I've been waiting just for a breath to be able to just chime in and make a couple of points. Number one, the commissioners have absolutely no authority to intervene in any transaction pending between the Kents and a potential buyer. There is nothing they can do. If the Kents sell the funeral home business to someone who's not qualified to run it, that is up to DORA to determine in terms of the licensing and such.
Right.
The other thing too is right now, statutorily, there is nothing that prevents a funeral home owner also being a coroner. There's just, as Commissioner Mudge pointed out, there's a conflict of interest provision in there that they cannot refer people to, the coroner can't refer people to a funeral home that they own. That's pretty much the basis for it. So right now, if there are issues with the new owners, licensing and performance either in Colorado or other states, my expectation is DORA has the resources to research that. And if they decide to give them a license anyway, that is up to DORA. There is nothing that the county can do to intervene in this process right now.
My whole intent was just to give you guys knowledge is power, and other counties have passed resolutions to prevent this type of thing from happening, as in having the coroner running funeral homes and the like. And what you guys choose to do with it is what you guys choose to do with it. That's my intention.
Thanks, Sheriff.
You're welcome.
Chris, I can connect with you just to kind of go through this information and debrief maybe over the weekend or on Monday, because I know that we're pretty booked the rest of the day, but I would be happy to do that with you.
That's fine. I will review it as soon as I possibly can and circle back around with you and Commissioner Mudge as to any comments or interpretation that I have on the information that Sheriff Reyes sent.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you, Sheriff Reyes.
You're welcome.
Is there anything else in terms of budget conversation that you all would like to chat about before we hop off the line?
No, I think we're good. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful day.
You too.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Are we done, Sarah?
Sure. I think we were, I think that was pretty productive.
Yeah.
I think we had some lingering
Everybody dropped
details.
off, but I wanted to chat through the mill levy allocation with you quickly,
Okay,
if we could.
sure.
Let's see here. Okay. Okay, just a second here. Okay, this is, okay, here we go. So here's what I'm thinking. I think we will need to, I need to look at Cap AC, if that's okay. Because I think what I'd like to have Kristol do is we need to take the amount for the fire station out of there and put it into the grant fund so that it's all paid through the grant fund, because the invoices have been paid through the grant fund right now, but the
Okay,
cash is in Cap AC. So I think we need to budget the cash to go into the grant fund.
okay,
So I'm going to ask her to do that. I have on my list to circle back with her about the Tyler payments for the software,
okay,
because I think the software, now that the implementation is done and we own the proprietary information on the software, we can move that yearly payment now to the general fund. So we can take that expenditure out of there as well. We'll put the sheriff's office lease in there for their vehicles, and maybe put in their cameras,
yeah,
because I think if we want to keep those things separate so they're not lost in the shuffle of the general fund, that might be better
sure,
potentially.
yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I said yes, that sounds good.
Okay, and then I think you want to, we might be able to move 1 mil from, that'll free up a couple mils in Cap AC. We can put those in the general fund. Maybe move like a half from human services to the general fund.
Is that what you were referring to yesterday? Where you
Yeah.
wanted to talk about in terms of childcare? I don't know if I was
Yeah.
can you just go through that? Because I might have been misinterpreting your text to mean to allocate that to human services. And I think you just said take it from human services. And also maybe
No,
I'm just
so-
misremembering.
No, so so the city has actually allocated a contingency funding to childcare, because we're going through the strategic planning process of childcare right now with human services. And so what Janine and I had talked about was allocating perhaps a dollar amount in the human services budget, because if it's in human services, then we can't say, oh, well, we're going to take that and not allocate it to childcare, but we're going to actually use it here.
Sure.
But what we were thinking is the city's put in a contingency in. I don't know the dollar amount. I'd have to ask Greg. But we would also like to put a contingency line in DHS and use that contingency for the startup of early childhood care.
Okay.
Because we are expecting to emerge from the strategic planning for early childhood care in our community with a plan to open that center. And so there's some TANF dollars that can be allocated to offset the salaries of staff at that center, but not to offset the full operational costs while you're trying to get enrollment and then get that facility up to like licensing standards. And so we just want to have a contingency to be able to offer as maybe like a potential fiscal agent for some grant dollars from like the Buell Foundation or something like that, something.
Okay.
But just to have some cash set aside so that we could assist with that, which I think is what the city has done also, because Greg and I have been in calls with the Office of Early Childhood Education, and that is kind of their recommendation is that, you know, it needs to be kind of a community funded and community driven process.
Right.
And so I think we've kind of taken that feedback to heart. And so we're really trying to make sure that we put that somewhere in our budget. And so that's what I wanted to talk about today with that meal allocation is, could we just keep a chunk in, would it be appropriate if we could just earmark something in the budget message and in DHS to.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, I don't argue the purpose. I just wanted to hear that and talk through that, because I think we talked about some other things which make sense to not include or like specifically allocate to give us more flexibility. But if we want to be sure that this is earmarked in DHS for like those funding purposes and to show that commitment, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Am I understanding that right?
Yeah,
Okay.
That's what I wanted to talk to you about today in this work session, was just, I think the legwork that we've done coming to this point of getting into strategic planning, we're at the point with that where now we're like, okay, we've got to, in order to move that strategic plan forward, we know we're going to have some funding from somewhere. Right. And with the facilitator and the data analyst that we've worked with up to this point to get to where we're ready to start that strategic planning, you know, that's kind of their recommendation. And every time that we talk to anybody like Summit County, the town of Breckenridge, Eagle County commissioners, you know, Jeannie McQueenie is like the early child care queen, like that's her thing, you know? Yep. And like all of them and any strategic planning that these guys have done for other communities, and any feedback that you get from the state is really just like, if your community has said that that's a goal and that that's a thing, then you just have to figure out how to fund it. Because if it's important to you, you'll make it happen. And if it's not, then you'll let people know that it's not by not funding it. Right. And so, you know, like Eagle County has passed like a nicotine tax, and they use the nicotine tax to supplement early childhood education and one other item. I don't know what it is, but
yeah, I can talk about that.
Huh?
So let's get Kevin back and talk about that.
Yeah. Summit County did the same thing.
Yeah.
They have a nicotine tax over there as well. The town of Breckenridge has implemented a short-term rental use tax on top of like the lodging tax.
Yep.
And so when you rent a short-term rental in the town of Breckenridge, you pay that additional tax, and then it goes into a fund where then the town has a grant distribution process. And so then they distribute that to the early childhood or child care centers in the town of Breckenridge.
Cool.
And it's not like the locals are being taxed on that. It's like people coming in to utilize their services, and then they're giving back to their community essentially. Right.
Oh, I like it.
So yeah, that's what I wanted to talk to you today about, was just well, and Commissioner Glenn, if he would have been here, but just about earmarking that, because the city is doing that as well. And so if we've talked about if we could do it collaboratively, it's a much stronger, if it's an application or whatever, it's just a better message.
How much would we allocate for that? What would we anticipate?
Well, so they have a pretty healthy fund balance in human services right now. It's like close to 500,000, which is fine.
So you're just talking about earmarking what's in there?
No, well, I was, yeah, just out of that $500,000.
Gotcha.
If we could earmark like 50,000 of it
Yeah,
to just say this could be, we could utilize $50,000 in the fund balance for early childhood education,
Yeah.
or child care center development in 2021.
definitely. Let me make a note in the budget message.
Yeah, because when I realized after we had read that into the record yesterday that I had forgot to communicate that to the board to ask if that would be appropriate. But Janine and I and Kristen Logan have chatted about that with our strategic planning facilitator.
Hmm.
And I think that's just the best place for it to be because it's human services.
Yeah. Okay, make a note.
And then the repeater towers,
Yeah,
since those weren't covered with CARES funding, did we want to incur that cost on our own, or is that something we want to consider or not consider?
I mean, I'm under the impression that that's really important.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd like to move forward with it. I don't know. I am not sure what other options we have to match that funding. Unless we want to, you know, like shuffle some other things and like lodging dollars to pay for some things that we may be paying for and therefore freeing up those general fund dollars to allocate here. I don't know. I just was on the top of my head, but I don't have a.
Okay. I could reach out to Kelly Sweeney and see if she can send the information over about
The grant application.
Yeah.
I thought she might have, but. Oh no, I'm looking at the mitigation grant stuff that she sent. Yeah, I think maybe part of our message, if I make it to the tourism panel board or a meeting on Tuesday, or just send an email or correspondence, maybe that's also part of the message of, hey, look, we thought we'd had funding for these repeaters, and this is also a, economic development and piece, which is another reason we'd like to allocate lodging dollars to the Ready Grant match, to be sure that we have or feel more confident in having to spend on those. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
Okay, so I can communicate those items to Kristol then,
Okay.
about adjusting those fund balances for our final budget adoption. Did we want to include anything else in the budget message about the Justice Center and the jail?
I thought we had put, so let's see, I have, let me look. So we have here, the county has received grant funding from DOLA for county manager. The position, blah, 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 blah. The county will be able to identify and pursue acquisition of property as a site for the Justice Center. The BOCC will budget to continue the planning process. I need to reword some of this, obviously, but what other kind of language do you want to be sure to put?
I think that's okay. I just wanted to make sure that we had touched on that in there.
Okay.
That's perfect.
Maybe I'll include in here something like the existing DOLA grants for a lot of this planning work to
Okay.
make sure that folks know that we've got, you know, that's happened here. Let me just 2020. Okay, just throw that in there.
Okay.
At one point a year or two ago, we asked departments to, like the road and bridge, to review. Is there anything different you want to say about the airport? Or just keep it simple?
Mom.
Really, what's that sentence or 2 sentences? Yeah.
I think we can put, it's only the green stuff that you're planning on having in there, right?
Well, the blue and the red is removed because that's now outdated from last year because it's talking about the big runway project and how we funded that.
Okay. Could you just add in there that the airport advisory board has worked really closely with the Economic Development Corporation to determine appropriate and beneficial marketing strategies and relationships with neighboring counties? Because that's what Marla's working on with them now. No, you can't put it in there yourself. I will do it for you. Don't be me. Sorry. We're homeschool pals.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're pals.
Yeah. That's cute. All right, the BOCC. Okay, the Airport Advisory Board, the EDC, and the BOCC has continued to. Sorry, you had good language there, and I did not capture it. Has continued to work closely with regional
and neighboring regional partners is fine.
Okay.
To develop marketing plans and build relationships.
Marketing and development or marketing
Yeah.
build relationships? Oh, to build relationships. Okay. Marketings and
Yeah.
to develop marketing plans and build.
So you can leave it like that and then say to strategically plan for increased promotion and that's perfect. Just leave it like that. I think that's fine.
Okay. Okay.
That works. Cool. I like it. I think that's the only thing I wanted to talk about today, to make sure that we didn't forget to put in the budget that Janine and I had just briefly chatted about and discussed, and wanted to make sure that that was in there. So
Okay.
I think other than that, I feel like we're in a pretty good place. So
Do you want to budget for the road and bridge fleet, not knowing what that number is right now? How do you want to manage finding the time to actually go through that? Because none of us. That's. I mean, we just haven't had the time.
Can I call Michael today? And I'll go through that and get Kristol a number.
Do you want to do that for next? Shoot, what is the 15th on Tuesday? on Tuesday. 11,
Maybe I
12,
could just get, what I could do is I could go through,
I can look through that too, specifically over the weekend, Kayla, and this evening. Well, probably not this, probably over the weekend. Do you have time to do that? If we all,
sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
okay, do you, because I know we talked about discussing this with Michael Thursday, but we're passing the budget Tuesday. I mean, we could be conservative and just pass and include a number. You know, that would be an annual lease fee. And if it's off, it's off by a few $1,000s, or we can take our time to review before entering into the contract. Or we can dedicate time, and I can do that with you, you know, looking over those documents this weekend. I mean, not with you, but I can also do that.
Let me connect with Michael today.
Okay.
Because him and I were working on this as far back as October. So let me connect with him today to find out what information he has and what information he's lacking, because I think that him and I have two different interpretations of what we need for it. And then I'll have Michael connect with you about, or share the information with you that he has.
Okay.
And then I can get with Kristol, and I can share with Kristol what information Michael has, and we can put a number in there.
Okay.
That would be okay.
I need to remove this. This is not true. Lodging tax revenue increased. I want to put that in there.
Yeah. Did we put in there sales tax increase too, even through COVID?
Through 2020, lodging tax increased. Even right. So we have sales tax at the bottom here. Do we? Where is it? There it is. What are we going to budget? We have to go through all these numbers. I was going to make a simpler list of these to plug in so that Kristol could be sure to give those to me to plug in.
Okay. Yeah, I think that would be helpful. If you want to put that in kind of a final draft form, and if you want to shoot that to Kristol to just fill in those number gaps, that might be good.
Okay.
And then we can adjust the revenue calculation at the bottom for, I'll remind her to do that if you can highlight that in the final draft version. Bless you. Okay. We could do that.
All right. Yeah, I'll take a couple more stabs at this and send you guys. I'll send you both the marked up version and a clean version, so you can look at whichever one you prefer and go back and forth maybe. A question I had for you on this too. So do we want to mention somehow the Gallagher amendment at all? And like refer to that? Would it be helpful to refer to that for any reason in here?
You know what? I didn't even actually think about how that would impact us, to be honest.
Maybe that's a conversation with Miguel, and maybe Miguel would like to include a little blurb.
Okay. That's a good idea.
Okay.
Maybe if you send that piece right there to Miguel and Stephanie, they might be able to get you
Some
some info on that. Yeah.
comments.
About
Okay.
if that would, what that impact's going to look like for us, and then when we can expect to realize that.
Okay. And then here, let me, I want to put here, and I don't necessarily have to like place it here. Whoops. Gallagher and URA and TIF.
Oh, I forgot about that too.
And what else?
I think that's it. He could probably put in there that 2020 was not a revaluation year. Revaluation will happen in 2021. And that, I don't know if he could give us kind of a download on what the perspective of the market is to put in there, so that there's a general idea of what to plan for in 2021 going into 2022, maybe.
Okay. Yeah, we'll see. I'm sure they have thoughts. That'll probably be good for them to, okay, cool.
That'd be great.
Any other, do we want, no, I think that's maybe getting a little wordy. I was trying to think like COVID and like more online. I was thinking the software and Tyler and like continuation of operations, but that's not really, that's more like internal.
Well, you know what, though, we are doing the next piece of the software implementation is the encode for building and land use, and that will start in January. Now that the finance software and licensing has been set up, then that the order of operations was that was to come after finance. And that software will happen in January, so that expenditure and investment will happen in 2021. So yeah, I think you could probably put that in there, because it is intended to make things electronic, like submission and application electronic.
Okay.
And then I think we still want to talk about, and maybe this is something to wait until we've hired other positions. Maybe this is something to just think about in 2021, but a permanent communications or PIO person, because I think that's been helpful. So maybe something to that effect. Yeah.
Okay.
That'd be awesome. Okay, I have a call with Judge Shirotis at 10:30, so gonna hop off and grab some coffee and
Yeah.
I'll do the planner for next week. So I'm gonna try to book out some time for maybe a brief work session on Monday just to go through this and make sure it looks good and final. Would that be okay?
Yeah,
Like Monday?
yeah, and we probably need some of those answers on the supplemental compensation so we can finalize that
Okay. Okay.
and how we're gonna do that.
Okay. Yeah, let me connect with Kristol and then I'll schedule something on the planner so that we can make sure we get all that stuff in there.
Okay. Great.
All right.
Thank
All
you.
right. Sounds good. Thanks. Talk to you soon.
All
Have
right,
a good
bye-bye.
weekend.
You too.
Bye.